Welcome to the episode Chat Sports Talk, and welcome to my 2023 Week 2 NFL recap and reaction video. So we go over the last week's action, see how well I did or didn't do, go over some of the games, some of the news is highlighted out there, and some of these games kind of went how I kind of saw them going. I knew I was going to at least lose one game, and I definitely did. Some games kind of went a little wonky. Didn't quite plan out as I thought they would, but that's the thing with the NFL, especially early NFL. It's really hard to really see how teams kind of place themselves. So, as we look into this, let's go ahead and dive right into last week's my predictions. I did better, and we're going 9-7 this week. Definitely had a few improvements, and that thanks off to doubleheader Monday night where I ended up taking both. I won all the primetime games. But beyond that, yeah, it's it's hit and miss on a lot of these teams, and some of them put up more of a fight than I thought they would. Others just collapsed. You go figure. So let's kick it off from last Thursday. Get action up there in Philadelphia. They play host to the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota is still doing a prolific job on offense. Kirk Cousins over 360 yards passing with 4 touchdowns. Jefferson almost 160 yards receiving. The passing game is not a problem in Minnesota. It is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Put up the points, put up the yards. It's their defense is starting to lack and allowing teams to continue to battle back. Last year, defense was a question mark, but they're able to sneak out 1-point victories. This year, so far, they've yet to lock down the opposing offenses, and the opposing offenses are able to rack up the points that they need to get that victory. And they're taking on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, which it's no easy task. Swift, thanks to the Detroit Lions, landed in Philadelphia, 175 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts also ran for two touchdowns and also threw for another one. He also made some really silly mistakes, but all for naught, Philadelphia was able to hold off a late charge by Minnesota, beating them 34-28 to go to 2-0 in the season. Minnesota right now is 0-2 to start the season. I think they'll be able to get the ship turned around, but yeah, that's kind of a bad sign when your season starts 0-2, and there's a lot of talk for you trying to be possibly a repeat divisional champ. Off on a Sunday, and we head down to hot Atlanta where the Packers came to town. Now this one I gave it to Green Bay, 'cause I thought Jordan Love, how he handled the Bears and how the defense was, should be able to handle Atlanta. Atlanta seems to have a little bit better offense. Bijan Robinson, a huge running back for the Falcons, 124 yards on the ground. Ritter, a competent quarterback. I can't say he's really elite, but he's definitely a competent quarterback. Over 230 yards passing, touchdown. He also did throw a pick. He also ran in for a score as well. So Atlanta's wearing their throwback helmets. The old red ones. And in the fourth quarter, they were driving down the field. They set up a go-ahead field goal, take 25-24 lead. Gave Green Bay under a minute, and this is Jordan Love's time frame to see if they can tap into that Favre Rodgers magic of fourth quarter comebacks. Fell short. Atlanta was able to hold on, beat Green Bay 25-24, and the Falcons right now are 2-0. Then we head up to Buffalo, where the Bills are looking to kind of regroup from last week, and they're playing host to the Raiders. And Josh Allen didn't disappoint. Almost 275 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Cook had 123 yards on the ground. It was a constant stream of offensive prowess, and they continued to roll. It was 21-10 at half. Garoppolo and the Raiders could never really get anything going. The defense was not performing at max level, as the Bills were just too much for the Raiders and ended up winning 38-10 to even up their season. We had this Cincinnati were playing host to the Ravens, and I called for the Ravens to win this game. I was not disappointed. But for Bengals fans, they're going to hold their collective breaths. It was late in the fourth. Joe Burrow tweaked that calf he pulled in preseason. I've told you before, I've had one of these. They are a reoccurring injury for a while. It takes a while for that calf to really heal up. I have no issues now. Of course, that was an injury I suffered years ago. Just a simple just jumping up and I pulled it. So like I said, it's going to be tender for a year at least. So it just tweak in the wrong type of moment. And even Odell Beckham got injured during this game as well for the Ravens. But Lamar Jackson, 230 yards on the ground, or 230 yards in the air, plus with 2 touchdowns. Edwards was the main focus of the rushing attack, only 62 yards and a touchdown. I think these two teams are very well balanced, and it was just how things just kind of played out. It was 13-10 at half. Ravens held on to that 3-point lead throughout the game, edged out the Bengals 27-24. They go 2-0 on the season, and the Bengals right now 0-2 and dropped 2 divisional games on top of that. Could this spell a possible bad season for the Bengals? Maybe, especially if Joe Burrow's out for an extended period of time. But, this is definitely a marquee game in the AFC North, and we'll see how this plays out for the rest of the season. All right, then we head over to Detroit, where the Lions playing host to the Seahawks. Both teams had I'm trying to think of the right word, phenomenal or unphenomenal or memorable performances last week, from one way or the other. Detroit winning in Kansas City, knocking off the defending champs to start the season. Seattle again dominated at home by the Rams. So both of them came in with something else. Detroit wanted to maintain the momentum they got from Kansas City. Seattle wanted to reassert themselves as one of the contenders in the NFC. In this game, did not disappoint anyone. Geno had over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. St. Brown was a huge target for Goff for 102 yards. And it really went back and forth. 14-7 at the half, and going into overtime, tied at 31. And that's when the Seattle Seahawks ended up winning because they had the opening possession, took to a touchdown because NFL rules in overtime in the regular season. If both teams are scheduled to have at least one possession, unless the opening possession results in a touchdown, escape Detroit with the overtime. Then we head down to Tennessee in Nashville, Music City. Chargers came to town, take on the Titans. These are two teams that seem to be built very similar and almost coach about the same. I think Tennessee's probably coached a little bit better. And these guys just go back and forth. And Justin Herbert is just one of these quarterbacks you just want to get behind to have him succeed. Right now, he's turned into the Dan Fouts of this generation. Dan Fouts was never a quality quarterback that wore that powder blue uniform for the Chargers. They could never really have a couple good seasons, but never really hit that pinnacle. Never won the AFC to go to the Super Bowl, but had deep runs. Many years of questionable play, but he always had good numbers and a fabulous beard. nice full beard. And Derrick Henry, it's just one of those running backs that you just look at, and he's like one of the bruiser running backs of old. You look at like Jim Brown, that really just ran people over. That's what Derrick Henry reminds me of a little bit. But once again, he didn't have that big of an impact. I mean, 80 yards and a touchdown on 25 carries. So he's a focal point of the Titans' offense and a focal point of any opposing defense, which is quite true. You can contain Derrick Henry, limit his production, limits his effect on the game, and see how things kind of play out from there. But like I said, these teams are very evenly matched. And it was 14-10 at halftime. Ended up going into overtime, tied at 24. And it was Nick Folk that hit the game winner in overtime to give the Titans the 27-24 victory, sending the Chargers down to 0-2. And once again, one of these teams that are I think should be in contention for playoffs right now, struggling. All right, next off we had the Tampa Bay, where the Buccaneers playing host to the Bears, and I said I was a glutton for punishment, and I picked the Bears. I was hoping to see something come out of this. Saw some glimpses with the Green Bay game, but it was not doing a running attack that's really kind of hampering. The offensive line still not quite there. Same issue here. Now, Chicago did make it interesting in that first half. There's only 13-10. But Justin Fields had a very ill-advised interception thrown. He was in his end zone, threw it out, and going and getting picked off by Barrett, and he just ran it in for 6. Baker Mayfield, another 300-yard passing game, touchdown. Evans being his favorite target, over 170 yards, getting that touchdown. Tampa Bay was just way too much for Chicago, beating them 27-17, putting the Bears 0-2, looking to probably go and repeat another high draft pick this year. And the Bucs are 2-0, and quietly sitting on top of the NASCAR division with the Saints. Then we head over to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars playing host to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are looking to rebound from their lackluster performance at home in the first game of the season. Kelsey was back. Jones was back. Chris Jones definitely made his presence felt against that Jaguars offense, and they had a hard time getting anything going. And definitely Travis Kelsey also made his presence felt after being gone for a while. Actually getting a touchdown for Mahomes. Mahomes had over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence just could not seem to get things going, even though Kirk have over 100 yards receiving. I mean, in the beginning, 7-6. So it looked like it was a good game. And it was a very tight game. Very tight. Once Kansas City went up 14-6, and it doesn't look like Jacksonville was making any true progress or trying to get up there. They didn't get up to 9 until Kansas City made that drive to get them that 17, and that was it. Chiefs held on, beat the Jaguars 17-9, giving me my fifth loss. My 5th loss already this week, and these games on Sunday I was just pulling my hair out. Then we head over to Houston, where the Colts came into town, take on the Texans. The battle between the first-round quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud against Richardson. And I went more with Houston because I saw what they were doing, what they did last week, and how C.J. Stroud was actually able to kind of produce and not make any errant throws. And no picks. So I saw that aspect go, okay, this is going to be part of a very good output. Richardson was just being a dual threat quarterback, a la Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson. And I think that was going to work to a point, but Indianapolis jumped out quick and fast, up 28-10 at half. Richardson did go out for a concussion. Stroud actually had over 380 yards in the air and 2 touchdowns. So once again, Stroud is showing he's a very competent quarterback. He's protected. He can make those connections. make the correct reads, find the open receivers. Their defense is kind of what's holding them back. But I think Houston offense in the right direction. But like Houston ended up winning in H-Town 31-20. Enemy lost number 6. But I don't know if and right now Houston is showing a lot of offense. And this game they showed some defense against Jacksonville. Didn't have much of a defense. So Indianapolis looks like a very improved team as well. So we'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. They out to SoFi, where the Rams are playing host to the 49ers, one of the great rivalries of the NFC West. And this game kind of went back and forth. And there's a lot closer than I thought it would be, especially looking at what the 49ers did to the Steelers. But I kind of forgot about the Rams' performance in Seattle, but I thought that was a one-off. Nope. Looks like the Rams are going to be a very contentious team. I mean, come on, you got Donald, on the defensive side of the Rams, who always find themselves in the backfield disrupting things. Stafford's still a very prolific passer, over 300 yards once again. But he also likes to throw picks. He had 2 of those. Brock Purdy just ended up handing the ball off to McCaffrey a lot of times. 116 yards, a touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. But a fourth quarter interception by Stafford sealed the deal, having the 49ers escape LA 30-23 to go 2-0 in the season. And then a game that had wild swings in it. We head out to Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals are playing host to the Giants. The Giants laid a goose egg, literally, against the Cowboys, so they're looking to kind of rebound. So decided to take on the Cardinals. And I said this is probably the best way for them to rebound themselves. But the Cardinals defense will probably be a little bit better than a lot of people anticipated, because look at what they did against Washington early in the game. But then the defense is going to do so much, but the offense doesn't do anything on the opposite end. Arizona defense stepped up, and offense stepped up in the beginning of the game. They were up 20-0 at halftime. At one point, they had a 21-point lead. And they couldn't keep the G-men down. Connor had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown for the Cardinals, which was a highlight of the offense. Saquon actually twisted his ankle in this game, so he's going to be out for a little bit. So he's not too happy. So everything rested on Daniel Jones, and then he did not disappoint. He had over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So the Giants erased a 21-point deficit. They're once down 28-7. Came storming back and won 31-28. One of the greatest comebacks in Giants history. And sadly enough, they've had 2 against the Cardinals. Both 21 points. Boy. But yeah, definitely a miraculous return by the G-men. We got to the Big D in Arlington, Jerry's World, as the Cowboys playing host to the Jets. And this game had a completely different tone coming to this game, because everyone was looking at Aaron Rodgers bringing in the Jets and see how they can handle the Dallas Cowboys. I looked at it as, okay, this is a game of 2 defenses. Which defense is going to make a statement? Because I already knew Dallas offense was a lot better than the Jets offense because of the quarterback. Knew that right from the get-go. Michael Parsons right now is a dominant force on that defense. He's making his presence felt. Anywhere the ball's at, that's where you find Michael Parsons. He is definitely one of those individuals you need to keep an eye on and probably put 2 or 3 bodies on, which allows someone else to make the play. So no matter how you look at it, the defense of Dallas is stacked right now. I think somebody brought in like the Doomsday defense was the name of the Cowboys defense back in the 70s. I think it's better than that. Right now, they're looking that way. They did allow some things to kind of go on with the Jets. They're able to get up 10 points in that second quarter. But Zach Wilson had a hell of a time trying to find an open receiver because he's running for his life most of the time. He did make some errant throws, but the Cowboys was just very methodical in their attack. And one of the issues that the Jets did not do, the Cowboys did somewhat successfully, was run. The Jets abandoned the run game, went straight to an aerial attack, which plays right into the Cowboys' motif and MO, because they have some pretty good defensive backs back there as well. So the Cowboys are able to just roll 30-10 to go 2-0. Extremely dominant these two games. In 2 games, the defense only coughed up 10 points. This defense is dominant. That's devastating. It will demoralize you, demolish you, desecrate you. This defense is death for any offense, and the games against the Eagles should be interesting once you get to those. Then we have to Mile High, where the Broncos are playing host to the Commanders. The Commanders had a nice win against the Cardinals. The Broncos kind of stumbled in their opener against the Raiders. We'll kind of see how they kind of bounce back from this one. And Russell Wilson had a decent game. 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, an interception. A typical Russell Wilson performance. Robinson for the Commanders, 87 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. So the Broncos have a hard time containing the run, which kind of dictates that because you have a successful run game, you control the clock, which means the other offense is a little more hectic, might go more passing. And it was a good game in the beginning. It was 21-14 at half. Broncos lead. But the Commanders were able to take a commanding lead heading into the fourth quarter. And an amazing fourth quarter attempt to come back. It was 4th and forever. Final play of the game. Russell Wilson had to heave a 50-yard pass to the end zone, Hail Mary. It bounced around when it ended up being caught for a touchdown. I was in shock. I was looking at that like, what really? Is that what happened? So when they lined up for the 2-point, I'm like, well, if they don't get this one, the Commanders win. If they do, we go into extra, and it's going to be, great to kind of see this game go into overtime. But the defense for the Commanders held off in 2-point try as the Commanders escaped Mile High 35-33, and Washington is 2-0. I know there's a few teams out there you kind of scratch your heads like, how are these teams this good? But once again, it's only 2 games in the season. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. And then we head over to Foxborough, where the Patriots are playing host to the Dolphins. Now this one, I kind of saw things going either way. I've seen a lot of people picking the Patriots to win this one, and I can see that one because New England's defense is pretty good. The offense is decent as well. They go along to protect Mac Jones. Mac Jones is able to make some very good reads and find open receivers and just kind of move the ball up. He doesn't try to go for home run balls too much. He's like, okay, give me what you give me, and then my guys will make it work, and then we'll kind of go from there. But at the beginning of the game, it was all Miami. It was 17-3 at half. It pretty much led that way into the fourth quarter. That's when New England started making the comeback. Tagovailoa almost had 250 yards in the air, touchdown. It was a dominant force for the Dolphins running the game. 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. But it was like in the fourth, New England was trying with a lateral. As the guy was going down, he lateraled back to the offensive lineman. He was trying to run, and then replay showed he was actually short of the first down. That was kind of it. Miami held on to win, 24-17. Then Monday night, doubleheader. We first head out to Charlotte, where Carolina Panthers are playing host to the New Orleans Saints. Bryce Young making his home debut, and it was a very good defensive showdown between these two in the first half. 6-3 Saints lead. Carr, over 225 yards passing with an interception. The running attack was kind of hit and miss. Hill for the Saints actually had 75 yards on the ground. You know, the quarterback, who's also a running back, who's also a receiver. So the old Slash, if you all remember him from back in the day, when he used to play for the Steelers. But it's just one of these weird games, kind of went back and forth. You know, then we went 13-6, heading to the fourth, and that's when things kind of went up in the air, and the Saints were able to hold off and beat the Panthers 20-17 to go 2-0 in the season. They had the Steel City where the Steelers came in, where the Browns came in to take on Steelers. The Browns wearing the white helmets, so they decided to white out themselves this game. And it kind of went back and forth. Now, Chubb did go out with a severe knee injury, and pretty much are saying he is done for the season. So what's that do with the Cleveland's playoff chances, having that? Well, they have a running back by committee back there. Ford had over 100 yards rushing. So there's ways that, you know, Cleveland can still do that because they have a decent offensive line. Deshaun Watson's still a good quarterback. Good receivers, running back by committee. The defense is still stout. Then you look at the Steelers. They have a young, talented offense. An experienced defense led by T.J. Watt. And it was the defense that pretty much anchored this game. They started off with a pick six. Cleveland was able to muscle way back. There was only one offensive touchdown throughout this game. So we head to that final frame where it was 22-19. The Steelers defense really clamped down on a lot of the things. It was a large run by Ford that set up a touchdown and a successful 2-point try by the Browns to give them that 22 points. So that way made sure that, you know, Pittsburgh had to at least get a field goal to tie it. The defense is like, yeah, we're not playing this game. Strip sacked Watson. The ball was loose. T.J. Watt, like, oh, look, mine. It ran into the end zone. That was it. The defense, like I said, anchored this team. They started with a touchdown, and they ended with a touchdown. A pick six, and scoop and score. As the Steelers end up beating the Browns 26-22, going 1-1 on the season, and really putting a lot of things in perspective of how this season is going to play out. And that was it. That was my week. Like I said, I went 9-7. A lot of those games, I like I said, the Bears game, I was glutton for punishment on that one, so I knew that was going to affect me. I was a little surprised by Atlanta. Surprised by Washington as well. Arizona was another surprise, but, you know, the Giants ended up pulling out in the end. But a couple other games I was not surprised, even though I did pick the losers in some of them. But definitely a lot of quality teams out there. There's a lot of 0-2 teams out here that I still think are still playoff contenders. So a slow start I don't think is going to hamper them too much. I think once you get to the 0-4 mark, that's when you really have to start to worry. But going 0-2 so far, yeah, it's a stain. You're definitely a step or two behind everyone else, but you can see that things can kind of go and see that, you know, the teams are going to excel, hopefully. Especially with the Vikings is a prime example, and the Bengals. Those are two prime examples right there. Two teams are 0-2 that you're like, really? These guys are 0-2? But sometimes it's just how the game's played on Sundays. You can't change certain factors. You can't change what certain injuries take place. But any given Sunday. But next week should be very interesting when it comes to games. We'll see how that one kind of plays out. But we'll get to that later. Hey, just let me know down below which game surprised you the most. How's your team doing thus far? As you know, with my team, not too good. I'm just hoping we can find somewhere to win, but looking at next week, no. The Bears got to take on the Chiefs. Come on. It's going to be a slaughter. The Chiefs are going to make some bearskin rugs. Let me know down below what you think. I want you down there. Hit that thumbs up once again, especially that content provider. It really helps promote this video out. You also subscribe. About 90% of you guys are not subscribed. Doesn't cost you a dime. So why don't you hit subscription button. Once you do that, you click that bell icon, turn notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.